Hello there guys, it's Joey, so I'm going to try it in this light instead. So I am a little bit blue. It's interesting how I always manage to find blue light, but there you go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Basically because the light over there is driving me nuts. But this is going to be the YouTube Pagan Challenge catch-up video to some... Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's my iPad, that's... the catch-up video for the YouTube Pagan, and I'm going to combine the what does the magic mean to you, spells and rituals, as well as possibly what does this time of year mean to you, because I think that's good to incorporate. So I'm 14, 15, 16, 17. I guess we're combining all of those. So it's talking about spells, rituals, what you do most often, this time of year, what does this time of year mean to you? This time of year means to me right now that something crazy is going on, because for the first time in this particular area this week we had snow, and it's nearly Beltane and we had snow, and I was like, I was, you've never seen somebody investigate out of a window so closely, like, is that what is that snow? I mean, other places had it a lot sort of colder than we did, so ours turned to slush very, very quickly and it didn't settle, but I was like, what? Death Crone walks this year. Death Crone walks at midnight. That's a Goosebumps reference. Not many people will understand. That's a Goosebumps game reference. So yeah, it's a strange old thing. So spells, rituals, magic, what does this mean to me, and the time of year, because I think the time of year can be topical for spells and rituals, because obviously a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us live our lives in cycles, not inside a washing machine like this, but in cycles. Cycles of the moon, cycles of the sun, cycles of nature. And I think a lot of us do this because it actually helps us get in tune with the world around us, and we enjoy that kind of connectivity to the world around us. Now, not all witches do this, not all pagans do this. It's actually a sort of misnomer that every single witch has to do this. You have techno witches, you have witches who are more interested in like the technical side of things, who are interested in, you know, the concrete world and the energies of that sort of thing. So it's not true of everybody. But for me, I have found myself becoming very naturally fitted in with the rhythms of the world around me, and even to astrology to a point, because I don't actually study astrology, but I find myself doing particular spells and looking up what the energies are astrologically right now, and they kind of just seem to fit. It's kind of a natural intuition when it comes to like astrological influences. But definitely with regards to the lunar cycle and the cycles of nature and feeling the energies around, I feel that that comes into ritual and spell work quite easily. Some of us, not all of us again, but some of us will celebrate the Wheel of the Year. Now, some people are a bit off about the Wheel of the Year. It's a Wiccan thing. It's like, well, I don't see that that matters. I don't see that it is a purely Wiccan thing. And I think if it brings you a good level of joy in, then just do it. So, you know, I do celebrate the Wheel of the Year as best as possible. I'm not rigid about anything. Now, this is possibly the most anti-Virgo thing about me. So if I get into a structure, a rigid structure, I get post. If I get into a rigid structure, I get so bored. I get bored, I get fidgety, I get fed up. I just don't like it. I don't like to be suffocated, and I feel that it sort of dampens my creativity. And my creativity comes from source, from universe, however you know, want to see that energy. And as a result, you know, to be stifled in a creative way is not something that I'm interested in getting into a bad habit of. So I celebrate the wheel of the year each year as I see fit, and I will do certain regular things. Now this Beltane is going to be a bit different because I have yet to find or visit the local graveyard here, and when I was in the other place I would go to the graveyard, and I knew there were quite a few decrepit and abandoned graves there, and one of the things that I do every single Beltane is take rose petals to the graves and place rose petals on forgotten graves, because it's something that makes me feel really like tight in the chest that these people lived and breathed and loved and were sexual and had joys and had sadnesses and all this, and that's just largely forgotten because these graves are in disrepair. And I just felt that every Beltane I would take rose petals, and every Mabon, or Mabon, or to be honest, autumn equinox, because Mabon is it's not really the right term for it, but people will know it as that. So autumn equinox, I would take apple slices, and I would do that in preparation for Samhain. So it was offerings up to the dead ahead of time as we were entering into dark half of the year. So those are technically seasonal rituals that I have been partaking in. Now I haven't seen or visited the local graveyard here yet, so I'm not sure where one is, and I have yet to go and introduce myself and pay my respects to the energies of the dead, which is a very, very important part of working with graveyard energies if you ever do it. So I call this honouring or respecting the honoured dead, and I've talked about this on Sabbat videos every year since I've been doing these videos, which is quite a while now. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe 5 years, I have no idea. It might be 5 years, it might be 4. So I've been talking about that for quite some time, but I keep bringing it up because I really do believe in this practice. So this is something that I do every year and doesn't stifle me whatsoever, because I feel that it pays homage to the respect and on. It pays respect to the honoured dead is what I'm talking about, and it's part of being in connection with a goddess who has such a strong death aspect, being respectful towards those who lived and died. And that is technically ritualistic in its way, because we tend to think of ritual as being, generally indoors for most of us, sometimes outside if we're fortunate, and we go through it's actually a very Wiccan idea of ritual that is presented to us in books. So it can be placing the altar and setting up the circle and lighting your candles and calling the quarters, and that is sort of paying homage to gods and the elements and taking these energies into ourselves and honouring the seasons and the time of year and honouring things that are bigger than ourselves in order to connect with those energies and to kind of raise our vibrations as well in terms of ritual, because it's like I want to be surrounded and all encompassed by these particular energies, so I want to be affected by them, whereas spell work tends to be we want to affect the outcome of things outside of us. So ritual tends to be going inwards and spell work tends to be going outwards, and the combination of two of course is necessary if you believe in as above so below, as within so without, which I do. I think it is a simplified but beautiful analysis of energy work and connection to the divine. However, rituals do not have to be quite so structured, and I find myself increasingly getting away from the idea of heavily structured rituals. You tend to find that in sort of like the magicians type, I forgot what the ceremonial magicians, they tend to focus on that element of order and structure a little bit more. I'm a little bit more woo, a little bit more wah than that. I prefer to go with the energy flow depending on where I am and what's going on and what I feel is appropriate to where I am at in life, where I'm connecting, what's going on with me, what's going on in the world around me. And this is how seasons comes into a ritualistic aspect, because what's going on in the world influences how the energies are in nature and within us and all the rest of it. So for example, in 2016, this has been a heavy year. This has been death walks this year in so many ways. So many ways. It's been a crone year. She's still here. We're coming up to, we're coming up to Beltane, and you're supposed to be like feeling like you should be getting necky, and I'm here like, pass me another blanket please, it's freezing. So it doesn't quite line up, and I struggle a little bit with Beltane anyway because I'm solitary, and I think that Beltane kind of loses itself a little bit when you don't have a physical collective group of people that you can go spend it with. Not entirely, obviously. I can still have my ritual and my connectivity and all the rest of it, and celebrate fertility and abundance, and I'm going to be planting my little plants that my oldest friend Hazel sent me. I've actually just popped them outside and decided I'd plant them for Beltane now. And I don't know what that was. But this year I have the woods. So this year I can use my Beltane to be like, I'm going in the woods, I'm honouring Fae energy within the woods, I'm connecting to the trees, I'm connecting to the fertility within this new land. I'm getting all super excited by harvesting things which I have not had access to previously, and there's plenty on the ground, and I don't need to go haywire anyway because my stores aren't low for things that are outside, but I will be investigating certain plants that were out there. And that's super, super exciting for me. And that really, really gives me something like positive and upbeat and yes, that I want to do, which isn't going to be something that I would have done last year and isn't going to be like a regular thing, but it is connecting to the energies of the land, which I think is really important, especially if you're on a Celtic path, especially if you're walking with Morrigan, because Morrigan is the land and the sovereignty is tied to the land, and the energies between goddess, mother, fertility and land. Now that can be applied to many, many paths, but obviously this is the path that I'm on, and that's very, very important, connecting to the spirits, the devas, the energies of the land and plants and trees around us. So this Beltane, that's something that's going to be my focus. Is that going to become part of a tradition? Possibly less so. I mean, I'd still probably go out and honour like the Fae energies and the things, but that connection, that I'm here, this is who the introduction, that's very much this year, and that may well happen in terms of graveyard energy as well. I might be able to find one, the local one, before. Actually, I think I know where it is. I think it's over there. Because I've driven out of this village a few times. I haven't walked up that way yet. Anyway, by the by, thinking out loud on camera, not necessary. So it will be an introduction to the new land, and there's something about fertility and planting the seed of a place which works really well with in terms of Beltane, and that's actually quite ritualistic. So it's honouring things that are greater than myself. Like I said, that's how I see ritual. Ritual is giving something and being open to receiving something, but it's more about honouring that which is bigger, holier than thou, all that sort of thing, whereas spell work tends to be a need and a pull rather than a release. So spell work, how do I feel about spell work? I think spell work should reflect who you are. I think that there is a tendency to go by the book when it comes to spells, and this is something which I think we all do. I think we all learn spells and doing spells in a certain way, and when we actually get beyond that and we start thinking about spells in terms of, being a part of us, being an outward expression of us, being who we are, and working our spells in order to create change within our own lives, so therefore the spell should really be a reflection of us. And there's something very empowering about creating your own spells. Now, Jem said on his video, and I commented because I thought it was lovely, that spellcraft is really an intrinsic part of being pagan, a witch, because it's something which is synonymous with us rather than other spiritual paths and denominations. Whereas, you know, you can say that, you know, ritual is found in all forms of spiritual path. It's just that the way, the presentation, the name changes. But spell specifically is something very witch centric, and I really like that thought. I was like, it really is a part of us, a part of our personality. And spellcraft is something that which draws people in the initial stages. Spells is something that everybody has heard of because it's hugely popular in all forms of literature, even when it's got zero to do with what witches actually do. So, you know how old you were when you first heard about a spell, and if you're anything like most of us, then the first spells you probably ever heard of were love spells or hexes, and that's just how it goes, unfortunately, you know. And you remember the first time you ever heard about a love spell or a hex or this, that and the other, and you remember the first sorts of spells that you tried out doing. I remember very vividly, and I have no wish to share. It was between me and another person, so it's kind of not really my who was voluntary there. I'm doing the spell together, and it's probably something that is too personal to me and them, so it's not something I'm going to share because it's not just mine, if that makes sense. And then later you get into your protection magics and your defensive magics and your giving back magics, your gratitude, which borders on ritual, but you know, you can interweave ritual and spell work anyway. It's not like two structured things which are totally separate. You can totally intertwine them and make them all your own. But I think what's really important with spell work is it comes from the heart, the soul, and the head. So when you sit and really logically think all these bits and pieces out, that's your head doing it. Or when you're feeling it and getting to grips with it, that's your heart and soul doing it. And those things have to be in combination. And you get to a point, I think, in your witchcraft where you automatically know in your head which things belong to which group. So if you are big on your correspondences and you want something to be very, very solar in aspect, and you're doing it to support the midsummer, summer solstice, and you've decided you want very solar things, so you'll instantly go sunflower, you'll instantly go marigold, you'll instantly go citrus, you know, and pull all these things in. And you just know up here that, you know, it's all solar. You might want to check it out if your memory's as good as mine. Ooh, camera. Because my memory is kaput these days. It's rubbish. So you might double check yourself just to be on the safe side, just to check. I'm not sure, I haven't used that herb in a while. Yep, right, fine. I know citrine's a solar herb, but solar crystal. I know it's a solar herb because my brain is not. This is going 100 miles an hour. This doesn't keep up. So you know that citrine's a solar crystal, but you're not sure about this one. This is tokasai. And you go look it up, and then you get to know with, you know, you remind yourself and things. But the point that I have completely managed to walk around and not state is the creation of something which is an expression of yourself. So I talk about this with altars. Altars for me are an outward expression of your relationship between you and deity. So it's a physical representation, a physical manifestation even, of your relationship to deity and how you see deity and how you view deity and how you think things ought to be arranged in order to honour, and the crystals you like and the colours you want and the statues that you prefer. And it's all about personal preference really, because that's your connection to the divine and that's how you think it best honours them. So in terms of spell work, I think we should really get back to that. Like, I want this spell to reflect who I am as a witch and incorporate bits that I really enjoy. And if I am a ex-witch, so not ex-witch as in, but if I am a fire-based witch, if I'm a candle-based witch, then I want to include that. If I am more of a water-based witch, then I want to include that. But you can include all the elements in each spell. It's really up to you. If you feel that you want to balance all the elements within, then you bring in an element of each. And it's all about discovering really what works for you and what is part of your relationship to your witchcraft, basically. And because it's your energy that's actually doing the job, so you've got to get excited about what you're doing. You've got to raise that energy. You've got to pump it all out of yourself. You've got to be like, I need this spell, I need this spell to work, I need to get my emotions going, I need to look at something and feel the emotions that are appropriate to X spell. So it's okay for a spell to be ugly if that's the kind of reaction that you want to it. If it's about bringing love and joy in, then it's probably going to want to appeal to you visually for obvious reasons, and so on and so forth. But I really think it's important for it to be an outward expression of you and your witchcraft. So it kind of all ties into this idea of living as a witch. I think I covered everything in that. Did I cover everything in that? We shall look glowing. Time of year. Magic, spells, rituals. I guess we could cover a little bit about regularity and practice and things of that nature. I kind of did this already. I don't like rigid structure, so I don't perform spells to a degree of rigidity. I do have spells that I keep going, and you know, abundance spells particularly, so they are kept going and like feeding and all that good stuff. But in terms of, do you do a spell every time on this day and this? No, because you perform spells in particular to fill a need, generally speaking. Rituals are a little bit different. Obviously, when you walk a path and you're connected to a particular god or goddess, then you're going to get into a particular habit, a particular practice of honouring your connection to that particular god or goddess, giving them offerings quite ritualistically, giving out of oneself. So that's a little bit more daily than anything else. Spells tends to be when they are needed and when is appropriate. So, you know, you might do a spell on a particular Sabbath, like we were talking about, that you might not do at any other point. And it might be a little bit more ritualistic than perhaps a normal spell might be, but that kind of ties into where your energy's at and where the energies of the year are at. So, there you go. So, I'm just about caught up, I hope. I hope we covered all our bases, kind of. So I just really wanted just to catch up, chat, wave hello, and now I'm off. Many blessings.